Wake up, wake up. It's time to return home. Hello Guanajuato. Did you miss us? We know that all mythical constructions have an origin, and we know all gods were relocated with human migrations from one place to another, from one country to another, from city to city and from town to town. You neophytes in ignorance must know that in the surrounding areas of the Great Silao lie some primitive traces of settlements where the ritual celebrations of the Great Lupercalia were made. Tracing the most remote vestiges of such festivity to the city of Guanajuato, we discovered that this was the oldest ceremonial center and where the real foundations of El Diozzfest are found. The legend says that the great god walked, lived and drank among the Guanajuatenses. Historians say that he studied in Valenciana for about 7 years. They say that he preached in the Tepetapas pulquetas among the poor, drug addicts, sinners, and fisheras, and sometimes only among poor donkey fisheras. It is said that he threw up in the Granaditas Alhondiga several times, not only out of necessity but for pleasure. He walked through all the gardens and squares holding a suspicious can of Coca-Cola in his hand, while urinating in every possible alley as a fucking badger marking his territory. He got drunk on the panoramic highway, in the Union Garden and the underground street because they believed that they represented for him heaven, earth, and hell. He sang 1,000 times, without luck, at the Bar 8. He danced norteñas in the burning of robes ceremonies, preached in the tamburadas and the charandeadas parties, insulted the freshmen in the famous White House of Noria Alta, and organized the most epic welcome parties ever registered in the history of mankind. He was beaten to death on the hill of El Cuarto once, and yet he got up and continued drinking. He smoked joints on the hill of the joint. Inexplicably woke up at the dam in San Javier at the same time, and his parties were eternal. He was imprisoned, died, buried and released on the third day according to the scriptures, and ascended to the wolves where his kingdom will have no end. It is worth mentioning that the wolves is the main temple specially built in God's honor and in which he will have to return every certain time, and in which this year the great feast of the new era will begin. It is time for God to return home, and for you to return home with him. The scriptures say that God will come down from heaven and will be always accompanied by his brave saints, a bunch of junkies who built his myth and followed his legacy until they were also venerated by the Guanajuato people in the world. Among others we remark Saint Ernesto Sanchez, to whom people pray when they get hiccups, hangover, or suddenly want to throw up, at the feet of a woman in the waiting room of the bus station. Saint Miguel Rojan, to whom the children entrust themselves and the locals invoke, screaming, "Bring the fucking substances," or "Play something more rotten." He is said to be the patron saint of all the Ivy League pricks, and he traveled to preach to the ends of the world. Saint Jose Silva is the patron saint of wrestlers, the people who get ugly tattoos, and those who will not leave until the last drop of alcohol is over. People pray to him before getting a fish or Adam West's tattoo. Saint Daniel Silva is the brother of the previous guy and patron saint of shitty music and bad drunk poets. The locals like to venerate him with very sad music while they cry and write poetry with a cheap mezcal canteen. Saint Israel Lopez, the doll. He is the saint of mockers and those who take cubas loaded with white Baraima rum, with no ice. People pray to him when their friends are roasting them or when they wake up hugged by a stranger. Come with us to follow the ceremonial route in honor of God known today as the Cani Tour, which in local language means great path of life and happiness. The Executed, the Tavern, the Barrels, the Why Not, the Lady of the Camellias, the Fire, the Northern One, the Free Guanajuato, and the Here Else Day bars. These are the great magical ceremonial centers that are believed to have existed since the beginning of time and will exist for all eternity, where God and his warriors drink before arriving the main temple. El Diozzfest is today the most important holiday that humanity has ever celebrated. And this year is a special year because many cycles will have to be closed and new ones will start. reconnecting with the most primitive foundations and returning God to his place of origin so that they emerge and be reborn with greater strength than ever. Party big with us as the ancients did. And don't forget, this year is time for us to return home.